There is a rhyme about him. It goes like this. He uses the stairs to maim and claim, and he's gotten very good at it over the years. So never say his name there unless you've gone insane, and you're looking down the stairs at someone else's fears. Is it a coincidence that on paper the rhyme is shaped like stairs? Walt, the stairman. There, I even said it aloud just now, but I'm not on the stairs. At least, I don't think I am. Technically, you need more than just the name. You need memory. People at school were talking about him. I don't know which people brought it into our school, but it got around. Somebody even posted a video of themselves dancing on these stairs while saying the rhyme. They did not say his name. A couple of days after hearing about Walt, the stairman, it began to seem oddly familiar. My friend said as much too, but none of us could decide which specific memories it came from. Our recovered memory of him was almost like a stairway detached from a larger house. Was it something our parents had told us to scare us, indirectly, into behaving on the stairs? Or was it something that we had seen in a book or on the TV years ago and had forgotten about it? Memories, after all, are as tricky as they are important. Here is how you summon Walt, the stairman. First, you've got to be in the stairs. Many stairs will do. It can be in a library, a hospital, or a museum. It can be in your own home. Second, think of the strongest, oldest memory that you have. Finding the Goldilocks zone of a memory can be a little difficult, because if it's so old that it's not very strong, it won't work. If it's not old enough, it won't work. This step on the stairway of summoning Walt, if you will, is the most difficult. It might require some trial and error. Third, say his name. Say it loudly enough that someone a few steps up or a few steps down would hear you. If saying Walt the stairman while on the stairs and thinking of a strong but old memory doesn't work, try it again with another memory. I have also heard it might amplify your invocation if you have some friends with you who all share the same old and strong memory. And supposedly, if there's no one else around but you and those involved, Walt is likelier to appear. A junior at our school was betting money for anyone who would try to summon Walt at a certain derelict house not far from our school and film it. I needed the cash, and so did two friends of mine, twin brothers who happened to share a particular memory with me. The old memory we strongly shared was of someone getting run over in our neighborhood. It had been a hit and run. We had been playing soccer outside in the front yard during the summer. Our parents had either been inside or at work. They had not been able to protect us from the sight of an old man slammed down and partially smushed into the asphalt. The car had reversed and rolled over the hump of his body before beating a hasty retreat. Lucas and Liam didn't see who was driving. I remember looking into the driver's side and seeing no one there. No one there but a shadow. Lucas and Liam didn't believe me about that, and I think my parents and the therapist I saw afterwards believed that I was either remembering things wrong or lying as an outlet. And despite my memory distortion regarding the driver, it was weird and horrific and old and strong. We agreed the memory was that way for all three of us. It didn't help that the victim was someone who had wandered miles from a retirement home into our neighborhood. I only found that out later when I was older, as if he had been summoned to his death. That happened when we were in the first grade. Because of newspaper proof of the incident, we were able to get that junior at our high school to triple their money. It's no big deal. I told the twins while we were discussing the bet apart from the others. We just have to go to that abandoned house, climb part way up whatever stairs remain, and say Walt the Stairman for the camera. We don't need to remember the old man getting run over, because it's impossible for anybody to know what we were thinking, and nothing will happen anyway. What if we get in trouble for breaking and entering? Liam said. That house barely has a roof left, I said. No one's lived there for years. Well, what about squatters? Lucas said. What about that money that you two needed for car repairs? I countered. And besides, I said, the location might be renegotiable. We'll just have to be cautious when we get there. We were cautious enough. We told our parents that we had a group project that we had to work on after school. In a way, we were telling the truth. Besides that, as seniors, we were on a longer leash. Until about 11 p.m., we hung out at a movie theater to kill some time. It wouldn't do to get there too early and get spotted going into that house. All we needed was our cell phones, a name, and the capacity to go inside and climb the stairs. It was too bad that going to a certain location was a part of the bet. Otherwise, we'd have chosen any staircase. We were all nervous as the movie theater's arcade machines blinked and prattled around us. Just in case, Liam said. Let's do our best to not remember that guy getting run over when we were little. Sure, I said. And just in case. Lucas agreed. We pulled up to the derelict house in the twins' ratty car a little after 11. Maybe 1/3 of the house's roof remained. The other 2/3 of the top were boards rising up into the liquid night like the columns of a pier. The siding was weathered. If there had been any boards over the doorway or the windows, they would have fallen down, showing gaping holes. That house was a dead thing that had never been properly buried. It was unclear how many stories it was from the outside or what style the house was supposed to have been. If any squatters lived there, they would be exposed to the elements. Liam silenced the sputtering car, and we snuck through the tall weeds with our cell phone cameras on record. Glancing around showed a half a dozen houses on that street. A few of their windows were still lit up. Old-timey music glided faintly towards us. Probably it was coming from an open window from one of those other houses. There was no breaking in involved. The doorway was a wound in the side of a hunched, decaying beast. We entered. The lights of our cell phones as we recorded and the stars above us from that house, not having much of a roof, provided enough to see by. Stars. It's kind of weird that stars and stairs are close. Sometimes when I see one, I think the other. I was looking at these stars above and thinking the word stairs. I pulled my head down to take them in. These stairs were mostly intact. Strips of puckered carpet covered some of them. It kind of reminded me of moss. Maybe it was. The rails were bent at an obtuse angle, like something wide had been moved along the stairs. Some of the railing had fallen. It was 2 stories. The rickety stairway wound around a corner to an open hallway with adjacent rooms. The doors to the 2 rooms were in varying states of disrepair, but both had holes routed in them. They looked like inky black eyes of various sizes. I imagined myself touching one of those bedroom doors and it exploding with fat, glistening termites. We're only concerned with the stairs, I said aloud. Too bad, Lucas joked. I wanted to whip something up in the kitchen. We tested out the bottom step. The old wood protested with creaks and groans, but it did not give. Not yet, anyway. Let's only go up 3 steps, Liam said. Why 3? Lucas said. I don't know, Liam said. It feels right. There are 3 of us. We'll each get on one of the first 3 steps and film each other. No reason to go higher than that. It made sense. We didn't want to get our ankles broken. Remember to not remember, Liam said. I couldn't help but chuckle, even though my head was throbbing with quick stabs to the tune of my heart. That's just gonna make us want to remember it more, I said. Liam climbed to the 3rd step, easing himself up with care. A fall from the height of 3 steps would hardly be of concern itself, but if we came down on something broken and sharp, it could be bad either way. Lucas followed his twin brother up, and then it was my turn. I got the bottom step. We had our cell phones in each other's faces, and we chatted to ourselves and for the benefit of our audience, but mostly to stall. My voice shook and my hands were clammy. I could barely hear the twins over my breathing and heartbeat, even though we were leaning distance from each other. Nothing's going to happen. We may have told each other without even saying it. We didn't say that, but one of us, I don't remember which, went ahead and hazarded these words. Walt, the stairman. When nothing happened, the other 2 of us said, Walt, the stairman. And it should have been done. Money in the bank. But there was one thing. What should have been a pebble by the wayside now that it was over and nothing had happened. It wasn't a pebble. It was a seed. Until that time, there had been an ageless, musty smell, with some hints of animal urine. But after the first of us spoke his name, the wind must have shifted without us noticing, and we hadn't noticed it at first. What was on that wind? It was the smell of a rotting animal. That smell had me remembering an old man that hobbled down our road. His hands wrangled the air as he labored the last measure of his life. It had me remembering the vehicle that snarled from behind and pulled him down beneath it like it was some kind of factory, like trees being turned into paper. It had me remembering without realizing I was remembering before it was too late. It was not a smell I would have encountered then, because our parents did drag us away from that old man. But whenever I saw the remains of an animal on the road and smelled its rot, I would come to associate it with that man, with that memory. I believe that the twins must have remembered too, whether because of that scent or because of something else. Somewhere between these stairs and the starlight, an apparition appeared. It hung over us like its back was clinging to a non-existent stairwell. Eyes that were much rounder than a human's, perfect or nearly perfect circles stared down at us. The rest of its face was smashed, bunches of it, recalling that hit-and-run victim from years ago. Its arms and legs seemed to be propped up and crammed into the air above us. It did not have a mouth. It didn't have a mouth until its face unfolded, and I realized it was not smashed but meant to look that way. And there were little arms and legs on the little folded up face that shared those overly round eyes. Sharp and glistening protrusions rolled the skin of its miniature arms. Walt the stairman dropped down to these stairs with us. Wood busted beneath him. He didn't seem to mind. He rose up, blotting out the stars with his height. His elongated arms, perfect for grasping existent or non-existent stairwells, stretched beyond his crooked-looking knees. He wore a strange robe that wasn't far removed from animal fur. Was it the fur of an animal of this earth? I have no idea, and there was no way to tell for sure whether those lumps were knees. We were all paralyzed at first. Walt the Stairman picked Liam up from the third step with his larger arms and forced him down over these steps above. Walt hunched over my friend like a blacksmith over an anvil. Pressing and twisting until one of Liam's arms was shoved beneath the stair. Liam's shout was distorted as his face was pressed against moldy strands of carpet and rotting wood. His brother ran up to help, but the smaller thing on Walt's head, I think that thing was Walt's head, removed itself from Walt the Stairman's body and jumped onto Lucas. I was filming and scared. There was a weight on my chest, a 2-ton weight of fear. Every breath that I took was difficult. The smaller thing ripped at Lucas's face with its bladed forearms. This thing, these two things called Walt the Stairman, it was not human. Whoever had tagged the man onto the end might have done so in sick jest. Maybe it had come from Walt's own twisted, folded up brain that it shared with that smaller thing. The smaller thing herded Lucas up these stairs towards his brother. Liam was squirming, his arm still pinned beneath the step. It herded until the free arm of the larger thing reached and grabbed. It reached and grabbed the wailing face of Lucas as the small part of Walt dived off of Lucas's shoulder like a thing attempting a high dive. The larger body of Walt reached and grabbed and hoisted Lucas into the air, one-armed before slamming him down. It used Lucas like a hammer to smash his twin brother's arm. Lucas went up and down and up and down. Liam cried out as pieces of his brother began to fall on him. His pinned arm that received all that force, it was no doubt smashed. But Liam cried for his brother in a place beyond pain. A soft, clicking rattle of bones, what had once been Lucas, was cast aside. Liam wept while headless Walt began groping for a piece of railing to use. When Walt's head came running after me like a bad memory, the only object that I had to defend myself with was my cell phone. I flung it at the creature. It fell back and slipped into the shadows. I ran. I pushed myself so hard in that short distance between the house and the twins' vehicle that I was sure I had pulled every muscle that I had, including my heart. Memories are tricky things. Sometimes you forget, sometimes they get distorted, and sometimes you get an inkling of a memory you never had. Other times, you can't forget. I can't forget what the bodies of the twins sounded like as they were dragged up the stairs. A sound that haunted my backside as I turned tail and ran. It haunts me every step that I take, and for good reason. I was a coward. I don't know where Walt took them, but I can only guess it had something to do with where he came from. I have no idea what the rules are there, but I do know one simple rule. Never speak his name on the stairs. Memory can't be trusted.